All right, district breakdown time. Matty Diggs is joining me again for the last time this summer, but not the last time you'll see him. He'll be on plenty of times. But we are talking 11-6A. We are talking the state finalists for the last several years, Duncanville, but they also got the DeSoto Eagles in there nipping at their heels. I'm going to go ahead and say that now. That's my team that I think is going to sneak out of this district. But nobody cares what I think. They want to hear what Diggs says. Diggs, take it away.
So to be clear on this, I have to get you on the record here because when we start our podcast coming up, I got to be able to hammer you on something. Are you taking DeSoto to win this district?
I'm taking DeSoto this year. I got this feeling, man. It's just,
my guy. That is the hottest take I think you've done on our 20 weeks in camp.
I wait till the last week, right? That's when I throw out craziness, but that's who I think. That's who I believe in that quarterback, and he's got a strong on quarterback. And if you can't beat him, join him with Cedar Hills quarterback. Said, "Nah, I can't beat him." So let me play receiver for DeSoto. So Cedric Harden in there with a couple other good guys. I don't know. That's my thoughts. But again, nobody cares about me. They care about Diggs.
And you may not be wrong. I mean, this is a team that won state on 7-on-7, and we can talk about correlation and causation with 7-on-7 and 11-man football. But I think more than the Reginald Samples era, we are seeing DeSoto and Duncanville much closer than they've been in this run. And I think that Duncanville is just not heads and shoulders above DeSoto. I'm still going to take them. I have Ric Flair theory, and Duncanville has beat DeSoto repeatedly over the last few years. But when you get on Twitter and you start to get into the North Texas Twitter scene and the high school football scene, there's not the barking coming from Duncanville that there's been in the past. There's a little bit more of a quiet confidence coming from DeSoto. I think DeSoto kind of knows what you are thinking right now, that this could be their year. You look at DJ Bailey, you look at John Tate Cook, you look at Cedric Harden now at receiver. And what I really like about DeSoto, and I don't think they've had this in the past, they are loaded defensively. Their secondary is fantastic. Trey Wisner at running back as well. They have a really good secondary. Brian Hollins, Cayman Mathis. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And depending on how they end up going D1 or D2, I think that could spell their playoff path quite a bit. But I think DeSoto would probably prefer a D2 route if that's what's in the cards for them. And I think they would have a really good chance of making it to the state championship in that route. But Duncanville, I mean, what can you say about him? You got Kadem Durham coming back. Jameer Willis is thought to be kind of the next in line at quarterback. DeCorian Moore, fantastic wide receiver. And obviously the defensive side of the ball reads like a who's who list with Deldrick Madison, Lamondrick Spencer, Elijah Wilson, Colin Simmons. Just fantastic players coming back at Duncanville. But I wonder when things get tight, like they do against North Shore in the state finals, or when South Lake in the potential in the semifinals, who's going to be that offensive playmaker for Duncanville that you can just rely on and know, okay, get the ball in this kid's hands and something point bearing will come out of it. I don't know if Duncanville has that, and DeSoto does have that. So I see what you're cooking. I smell what you're cooking over there, Ward, and you might be onto something.
Talk about 3-4, because there's two other playoff spots to be had, and I'd like to hear you say who you think those two teams might be.
Well, it's going to be a very competitive thing, and I think when we get into bracketology, when you start to break things down, Duncanville is a guaranteed D1 squad. So no matter what happens in the Duncanville-DeSoto game, which is really irrelevant for playoff seeding, especially for Duncanville, Duncanville is going to be the Division I first seed coming out of this district with almost all certainty. Now, DeSoto has really the opportunity to go D1 or D2. They're going to be looking at Waxahachie. If Waxahachie can slide into the playoffs, then all of a sudden DeSoto is going to be a D2 team. They'll be D2 most likely the first seed, which would make that Duncanville-DeSoto game again not really mean anything as far as seeding and playoff bracketology goes. So really, DeSoto, I think, are big Waxahachie fans. And this year, I'm a big Waxahachie fan. I think they're going to be the third seed. I look at what Waxahachie has coming back, and Iverson Young, Jaden Beck's a two-headed combo at running back, DeTyrian McCoy, Keith Abney, a two-headed monster at receiver, really talented, some defensive players in Jeremy Jackson and Calvin Simpson. Waxahachie every year, in 2020, they kind of got in because of that tier system with COVID and the way they ended up kind of doing zones and okay, they got in there. 2021, I think they kind of said, okay, that was not a fluke. We're here. We're part of the playoff conversation. Now I think they're going to be saying, not only are we part of the playoff conversation, we're part of the bigger conversation in winning playoff games and in advancing. My fourth team is a little bit of an upset pick, and I know this got Twitter abuzz when I picked Cedar Hill to not make the playoffs, but I really like Mansfield Lake Ridge in that fourth playoff spot. Kenan Miller did great things last year as a freshman. And Ward, as a dad kid, I mean, you're talking about just a player that's a year or two older than your boys, who is going out and lighting up this district. And next year as a sophomore, I think he can do the same thing. Tanner Grimes is coming back. Bryce Marcus is coming back. They've got some really good players at safety, and they got a really good freshman team coming up to fill up some of those varsity spots. Lake Ridge might be a problem for the next couple of years, and I think Lake Ridge has a really good chance to make that last playoff spot. But one thing I was really, I got Cedar Hill at the fifth position, but when I was starting to dig into Mansfield, I don't know if Cedar Hill's even going to get the fifth position. I think Mansfield is right there with Lake Ridge and Cedar Hill. Very talented. You got DJ Jordan, safety coming, or BJ Jordan, sorry, BJ, coming back at safety. De'Aaron Armster. They got that Caleb James transfer from Nolan, defensive end, who is just tearing it up. Sergio Kennedy coming back at quarterback. Mansfield's going to be a problem in this district as well for that middle tier. I really like Mansfield, and the more I read into them, I'm beginning to think, I don't know that Cedar Hill is going to even get to the fifth spot in this district. It's going to be crazy.
I'm not going to put your address out here in the open in the Twitter world, but there's a ton of TTHL fans that are ready to rip your head off right now. They're like, what are you talking about? Cedar Hill has the athletes. We've always had the athletes since Joey McGuire take over. Why are you telling me that we may finish sixth? What isn't good about our team that's better that's better with the two Mansfield teams that you mentioned? Man, answer this question for these people before they come after you.
Well, they can come after me, but go look at that all-district list from last year. Look who's coming back. You got two players who are no longer on the team who are coming back. You call your two best players. One transferred and one got hurt. Jalen Jenkins, very good running back. I'm not saying that their players are not good players, but everybody else has stepped up in this district. Waxahachie, it's not that Cedar Hill is bad, it's Waxahachie is better. It's not that Mansfield Lake Ridge is bad, it's that they're getting better. It's Mansfield, they're getting better. Cedar Hill, they're not getting better right now, and with all of the losses that they've had, they got to get better, and I don't see that in this group of this group of kids. I don't know that they've gotten that much better compared to everybody else.
Let me hear who you got 1 through 8, and let's see where you put Cedar Hill in your 1 through 8.
Duncanville 1, DeSoto number 2, Waxahachie number 3, Lake Ridge number 4, Cedar Hill number 5, Mansfield 6, Skyline 7, Legacy 8. Before I get the hate mail, I think 3 to 6 are all pretty close, and I think that if we saw Cedar Hill and Mansfield make the playoffs and Waxahachie and Lake Ridge not make the playoffs, it wouldn't surprise me too much because all 4 of those teams are very talented. And Skyline, if they have a young class coming up, Skyline is the magnet school in Dallas ISD. You never know what you're going to get until probably the first day of 2 days. And then all of a sudden you might get some players in there. You think to yourself, hey, we can do something with this. Skyline was always dangerous 10, 15 years ago for that reason. You never know when Skyline will make its resurgence.
So that's going to do it for me and Diggs. We're going to have some stuff for you the rest of the year. Be sure to tune in to all our social media platforms, and we'll let you have it. But thank you for joining us, Diggs. This whole summer has been a blast, and I'm ready for some
summer. We give us 20 weeks.
20 weeks of me and you just hollering at each other. But they the twos, and we the ones.
You've given enough of your money to gas and groceries this month, so when it comes to your wireless plan, don't overspend another second. Smile, you're on Cricket.